The alien Queen Zyra had ruled the Starfold throne for over 3 centuries, watching empires bloom and collapse like dying stars, yet no memory burned brighter than the day her daughter vanished. Princess Aelira had been young by royal standards, curious beyond reason and endlessly fascinated by humanity, a species the High Council called fragile and dangerous in equal measure. Against all warnings, Aelira had traveled in secret to the blue world called Earth, wearing a cloaking skin and calling herself a student of languages. When the Queen discovered the deception, it was already too late. The human wars escalated, interstellar borders closed, and Aelira never returned. For decades, Zyra sent probes, spies, and diplomats, but Earth remained silent, then eventually unreachable after the Rift Wars shattered known hyperspace routes. The Queen hardened her heart, declaring her daughter lost to the void, yet every cycle she ordered the royal archives reopened, hopping for even the faintest signal. When rumors finally reached the throne of a hybrid envoy, traveling with 2 strange children, Zyra dismissed it as another cruel myth. Still, something ancient stirred within her, a pull she could not explain. The council chamber trembled when the royal seers spoke, claiming destiny itself had shifted. A vessel approached bearing impossible genetic signatures, part royal blood, part human, and part something entirely new. The Queen rose from her throne, claws trembling, and whispered words she had not spoken in a century. "My daughter." The landing platform blazed with ceremonial light as the unknown ship descended, sleek yet scarred, carrying the marks of long travel and longer survival. Royal guards stood ready, weapons humming, though none knew who they were truly meant to protect. The ramp lowered, and a woman stepped forward, tall, radiant, her alien crest unmistakable beneath softened human features. Queen Zyra staggered back, disbelief flooding her ancient eyes. "Aelira," she breathed, her voice breaking centuries of composure. The princess bowed, tears shining, then straightened and reached back into the ship. A human male emerged, broad-shouldered, weathered, his stance calm but fiercely protective. "This is my husband, Daniel," Aelira said, her voice steady despite the storm around them. Gasps rippled through the court. Interspecies unions were forbidden, written into law after the earliest contact wars. Before the Queen could speak, 2 smaller figures appeared, peeking from behind their parents. One had shimmering violet eyes, the other warm human brown, both bore faint royal markings along their skin. "Mother," Aelira continued softly, "may I present your grandchildren?" The word struck like a supernova. Grandchildren, heirs born of unity rather than conquest. The Queen's knees nearly buckled as she stared at the children, feeling a genetic resonance she could neither deny nor resist. "Are these," Zyra whispered, "my grandchildren?" That night, beneath the crystal vaults of the palace, Aelira told her story. She spoke of Earth's oceans and skies, of hiding among humans as a foreigner and slowly becoming one. Daniel had been a linguist, drawn to her strange accent and sharper questions. Their love grew quietly, dangerously, under the shadow of galactic law. When the Rift Wars cut Earth off, Aelira lost all hope of returning home. Daniel chose exile without hesitation, rejecting evacuation when offered. They survived famine, unrest, and the slow terror of raising children who did not fully belong to either world. Yet the children thrived, adapting faster than anyone expected. When hyperspace stabilized generations later, the children were the ones who insisted on returning. "They deserve to know who they are," Daniel said, meeting the Queen's gaze without fear. Zyra studied the human, sensing no deceit, only devotion. She realized then that this man had protected her bloodline when her empire could not. The Queen's anger faded, replaced by something unfamiliar, humility. Perhaps the laws had failed where love had succeeded. Perhaps survival required more than purity. The High Council demanded judgment. Some called the children abominations, others potential bridges. The Queen allowed a formal trial, confident now that truth would prevail. The grandchildren stood before the council, unafraid, their minds open, their hearts steady. The elder child spoke first, projecting emotion directly into the chamber. "We are not here to replace you," she said. "We are here to protect what comes next." The younger followed, sharing visions of futures where humans and aliens stood together against threats far darker than prejudice. Daniel offered no defense for himself, only for his family. "If loving her is a crime," he said calmly, "then judge me, not them." The Queen rose, her decision already forged. She invoked the ancient clause, a forgotten law allowing evolution of royal blood in times of existential threat. The council fell silent as Zara declared the children legitimate heirs. Not despite their humanity, but because of it. The coronation was unlike any before. 2 thrones were added beside the Queen, smaller but equal. Illyra stood between worlds, no longer lost, no longer exiled. Daniel watched from the royal platform, pride etched into every line of his face. Queen Zyra placed her claws gently on her grandchildren's heads, completing the bond ritual. "For too long," she proclaimed, "we believed strength meant separation. Today we learn that survival is born from unity." Across the stars, signals spread, carrying the image of a royal family that defied history. Empires paused, enemies reconsidered, and hope ignited in systems long resigned to endless war. As the Queen looked upon her daughter, her human son-in-law, and the children who would one day rule, she finally allowed herself to smile. The future was uncertain, dangerous, and bright beyond imagining. And for the first time in centuries, the Queen did not fear it. Peace never arrives quietly. It announces itself with tension, resistance, and fear disguised as tradition. The Queen understood this truth the moment the coronation echoes faded and the palace lights dimmed. Across the galaxy, reactions erupted like solar flares. Some systems celebrated the new dynasty, others prepared for war. Ancient rivals of the Starfold throne saw opportunity in unity, believing mixed blood meant weakened resolve. Shadow fleets stirred beyond mapped space, watching, calculating, waiting for the first fracture. The grandchildren felt it before anyone else, a pressure in their minds, a hum beneath their thoughts. The elder child, Lyran, dreamed of burning skis and silent stars. The younger, Kale, heard whispers in hyperspace, voices not alien nor human, but something older. They spoke to each other without words, fear braided tightly with purpose. Illyra sensed the change in them. The way their posture sharpened, the way their laughter softened into focus. "They are awakening," she told her mother, her voice heavy with both pride and dread. Queen Zyra nodded, knowing this moment had been inevitable. The royal archives were unsealed for the first time since the Dawn expansion. Crystal records spoke of an ancient convergence, a cycle when bloodlines merged to face extinction-level threats. The children were not an accident, they were an answer delayed by centuries of fear. Beyond the rim, the devourer stirred. It was not a species, but a force, a living collapse that fed on divided civilizations. Empires fell fastest when they refused to change. The council reconvened, no longer divided by law but by terror. Scouts reported vanished systems, stars dimmed unnaturally, hyperspace routes collapsing into nothingness. The devourer had returned. Queen Zyra addressed the galaxy, her voice broadcast through quantum beacons. "We stand at the edge of forgetting," she declared, "and this time walls will not save us." Lyran stepped forward beside her grandmother, eyes glowing with layered consciousness. "We can hear it," she said, projecting calm through the signal, "and it fears us." The galaxy listened. For the first time, hope came not from fleets or weapons, but from children born between worlds. Daniel stood behind his family, hand resting lightly on Illyra's shoulder. He had faced war before, but never the weight of destiny. Still, he did not retreat. He had chosen this family, and he would choose them again. Training began immediately. The children learned to channel their hybrid abilities, blending human adaptability with alien psionic resonance. They could stabilize collapsing space, soothe panicked minds, and see probability threads like glowing rivers. Yet power came at a cost. Every use pulled them closer to something vast and cold, something that recognized them in return. Elira watched sleeplessly, torn between protecting her children and trusting the future they embodied. The first battle came without warning. A border colony vanished mid-transmission, its final signal filled with static and screams warped beyond recognition. The Queen mobilized the unified fleet, humans and aliens flying side by side for the first time in history. As the Armada jumped into contested space, reality itself twisted. Stars bent inward, light stretched thin, and the Devourer revealed itself as a wound in existence. No weapons could touch it, energy vanished into its depths like rain into an abyss. Lyran reached out, her voice steady despite the terror pressing against her mind. "It is hungry," she said, "but it is also alone." Kale joined her, amplifying her thoughts with raw emotional clarity. "It does not understand unity," he added, "only consumption." Together, they did not attack, they connected. They projected memories of family, sacrifice, cooperation, and love across the void. The Devourer recoiled, confused, destabilized by concepts it had never encountered. Daniel felt tears burn his eyes as he watched his children stand against oblivion itself. Not as weapons, but as proof. The Queen felt something she had not felt since her youth, awe. Not at power, but at transformation. The Devourer did not die, it withdrew, wounded in ways no fleet could have achieved. The galaxy exhaled as stars slowly returned to normal. In the aftermath, silence reigned. Then signals poured in, systems pledging alliance, species offering aid, borders dissolving into cooperation. Fear had not vanished, but it had changed shape. Queen Zyra addressed her grandchildren privately that night. "You have altered the course of existence," she said softly. "And you have bound us to a future we must earn every day." Lyran bowed, still a child, still overwhelmed. "We will not do it alone," she replied. Kale smiled, a very human expression softened by alien grace. "That is the point." As stars healed and histories rewrote themselves, the Queen stood on her balcony once more. She watched her family move through the palace halls, laughter echoing where silence once ruled. She understood now that legacy was not blood preserved, but blood shared. Beyond the galaxy, the Devourer watched, learning, waiting. But for the first time in its endless existence, it hesitated. Because the universe had changed. And it had done so not through conquest, but through a single question asked in disbelief and love. "Are these my grandchildren?" After the Devourer withdrew, the galaxy did not celebrate immediately. Survival left behind a strange silence, the kind that follows storms too vast to fully comprehend. Fleets returned to their systems, borders reopened slowly, and old enemies studied one another with cautious curiosity instead of hatred. Queen Zyra knew this calm was fragile. Victory without understanding often bred complacency, and complacency invited extinction. She ordered no monuments, no triumphal broadcasts, only preparation. Within the palace, life shifted in subtle ways. The grandchildren no longer walked unnoticed, yet they were still children, still learning where duty ended and self began. Lyran spent hours in the observatory, watching stars as if listening for their breathing. Kale explored the archives, absorbing histories that once would have been sealed from him. Elira struggled most of all. She had lived years as a fugitive, a mother in hiding, and now she was a symbol. Every decision she made echoed beyond her family, shaping the future of two civilizations. Daniel remained her anchor, reminding her through quiet gestures that love did not vanish under crowns and prophecy. The Queen invited Daniel to walk the ancestral gardens with her. It was a rare honor, one never before extended to a non-royal. They walked beneath bioluminescent trees older than human civilization, their roots intertwined beneath crystal pathways. "You have changed us," Zyra said at last. Daniel shook his head gently. "No," he replied, "we only showed what was already possible." The Queen considered this, her long life heavy with regret and revelation. "For centuries, I believed control was strength," she admitted. "Now I see strength in trust, and that terrifies me." Daniel smiled, a human expression that still felt foreign to her people. "It should," he said, "because it means you can lose something real." Meanwhile, the children sensed disturbances not from the devourer, but from within the galaxy itself. Old factions resisted unity, fearing erasure of identity. Whispers of rebellion formed not from hatred, but from uncertainty. Lyran addressed this by visiting distant systems. She did not command, she listened. She shared stories of Earth, of alien traditions, of blended cultures finding balance instead of dominance. Many resisted at first, but seeds of understanding were planted. Kale worked differently. He connected minds briefly, allowing leaders to feel each other's fears without words. Moments of shared vulnerability softened centuries of suspicion. Not all were convinced. Some attacked isolated convoys, testing the resolve of the new alliance. The unified fleet responded with restraint, defending without annihilating. This choice confused aggressors more than retaliation ever could. Queen Zyra watched these events unfold and understood that rulership had evolved beyond command. Her grandchildren were not conquerors or saviors, they were translators of existence itself. They turned chaos into dialogue, fear into curiosity. One evening, the family gathered beneath the open sky of the capital world. Stars reflected in the polished stone, as if the universe itself leaned closer. Elira asked the question she had avoided since returning. "What happens when we are gone?" The Queen answered without hesitation. "Then what you began continues. Dynasties end, ideas do not." Daniel held his children close, aware that their lives would never be ordinary. Yet he also saw them laugh, argue, and dream, still human enough to remain grounded. That balance gave him peace. Far beyond known space, the devourer shifted once more. It no longer rushed toward consumption, it observed, adapting slowly. Unity had introduced something dangerous into the universe, unpredictability. But the galaxy was no longer static prey. It learned, changed, and remembered. Queen Zyra recorded a final private entry into the royal chronicle. Not as a ruler, but as a grandmother. She spoke of loss, fear, and the miracle of reunion. She ended with a truth earned through centuries of rule. The future would not be ruled by purity or power alone. It would be shaped by those brave enough to belong to more than one world. As dawn rose over the palace, light touched alien stone and human hands alike. The Queen watched her family greet a day not promised, but chosen. And she knew that whatever storms awaited beyond the stars, they would not face them divided again.